Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about the 5 essential bass licks that can save anything for you as a bass player. The way that we mean bass lick in this lesson is basically a pattern that can be moved to different chords depending on the song, and then obviously a pattern that can be applied to different drum beats. So we've got an example for you, but you can take these and put them in any style of music. You can also take them and apply them to any drummer, which is why they're essential. This is perfect. So let's obviously break it down, and then we can put the track on, play along together. Everyone is a winner. So this is in C major. So I'm just going to play the C major scale for anyone that may know. If you're not sure what the C major scale is, we're not talking about it in this. This is just the bass licks that are going to save you if we are in C major. So that was the C major scale there. To make it a little bit easier, we do have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Obviously that makes the C major scale. So our chords are going to follow this pattern. It's going to go C, then to A, then to D, and then to G. That pattern is going to continue through the whole backing track today. And that's the reason why these essential licks can be superimposed to all of those. So let's obviously work out what we're doing and where we're playing it. So we're playing C on the 3rd fret of the A string, A on the 5th fret of the E string, D on the 5th fret of the A string, and G, the 3rd fret of the E string. So we're basically making like a box shape, 3 to 5, 5 to 3. But obviously if we were doing that to a backing track, it's not the most interesting thing. So these 5 essential, that's 10, these 5 essential bass licks are the things that you can superimpose to sound cooler. So the first one is an octave. So an octave shape is going to be this right here, where you're missing a string and playing diagonal. So that's 3 to 5. That's on the C. Then we're going to go 5 to 7 on the A, 5 to 7 on the D, and then 3 to 5 for the G. So we've got C octave, A octave, D octave, and G octave. All of these are going to be put into context with the backing track, so I'm going to play through each one in turn so you can hear it, and obviously that way you know exactly what I'm doing and it's all nicely mapped out. So that octave right there can be played in different rhythms, can be played over different drum beats, can be played over different chords, but it's a nice little pattern and a nice little bass lick that we can mess around with. So obviously that rhythm there is all based on octaves, but I'm basically just trying to think of what a drummer would do. And obviously when we put the backing track on, you'll be able to hear me adapt what we're talking about now to match the style of music. And you can match it to any chord, any drummer. So that's our first bass lick that is definitely going to save you if you're not sure what to play. Just go for that octave. That shape literally will save you 100% of the time, regardless of whether it's soul, funk, jazz, pop, metal, rock, etc. So that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be our 5th shape, and what I mean by a 5th shape, I mean a perfect 5th interval. If anyone knows what that is, if not, don't worry, I'm going to show you what it looks like. So for our C, it's basically just going to be playing the 5th fret just on the string underneath. So 3 to 5, that's our C. Then for our A, it's going to be to the 7, so that is our A 5th shape. Then our D, that's going to be our D 5th shape, which is 5 to 7. And then for our G, which is on the 3rd fret, we're going to be playing that 5th fret underneath. So that is our 5th shape for the G. So C, A, D, and and G. Once again, that is a shape, but let's make a lick out of it, and I'll play it with the kind of same pattern that I did with the octaves. So you can see all of these shapes are being turned into licks, hence why they're really usable, and they are essential because you can mess with them, but they are super important to make sure that you get them in your playing. So that was our second one, that is our fifth shape. Then moving on from that, we're going to start adding in other notes so we can do what we call an arpeggio. So for an arpeggio, we've got to start to add different notes. I'm just going to use one basic shape for each chord because then it saves having some confusion. So we're just going to do a C major arpeggio because the first chord of the backing track is C major. So that's going to be 3 to 2 to 5. 3 to 2 to 5. We can add the octave in, but obviously we've already spoke about the octave, so it's up to you if you want to add that in. Turning that into our lick would be like this. So that is our C major arpeggio bass lick, if you will. So that was 3, down a string to 2, and then 5. That's our generic shape for C major. Then we've got our A minor arpeggio shape, which is going to be 5th fret, 8th fret on the same string, and 7th fret on the next one. So it's going to sound like this. And that is our A minor chord, our A minor arpeggio, which is the next chord in the backing track, as you will hear and as you will see when we play it. We can add the octave in if we want as well to make it a little bit sprucey, but obviously we've already mentioned the octave already, so that is going to be 5 to 8 to 7. Turning it into our lick will be this. So I'm using the same rhythm for all of these, but you can mess around with the rhythm to adapt to the drummer or the style of music. Once again, these are licks that you can play in any situation, just with a bit of fine tuning. So that was our A minor arpeggio. Then we've got our D next. This is a D minor arpeggio, or a D minor chord in the backing track. So what we're going to do is take the shape we just did for the A minor, but play it on the 5th fret of the A. So that is a D. The 5th fret of the A string is a D. And we're going to play our D minor arpeggio, which is 5, 8, and 7. We can add the octave in if you want, but once again, octave was our first bass lick, so we're not going to add it in just when we're talking about it. So 5 to 8 to 7. And it's going to sound like this if we turn it into a bass lick. Once again, obviously if that rhythm's getting a bit stale, you can change it just with a little bit of minute changing and tweaking, but we're just going to play the same rhythm all the time because then you realize that these licks are super usable regardless of what we're doing. So that was our D minor arpeggio. Then we're going to go into our G major arpeggio to finish, which is obviously on the 3rd fret of the E string. And we're going to play 3, down a string to 2, and then 5. So that's going to be 3, 2, 5. Once again, you can add the octave in if you really want to, and it's going to sound like this. So that is going to be our G major arpeggio bass lick. So if we put all of them together, which obviously we will with the backing track, but I'll do it now too, so everyone knows what I'm doing. C major, A minor, D minor, G major. And that was literally just by using all of those bass licks, but playing the right chord and just moving it around, and it actually sounds like a bass line. And I'm not even really thinking about anything, I'm literally just superimposing the shape. This is why bass licks are good, it's why you need them up here. There are a million bass licks, but these are just 5 essential to get you started. So that was our third bass lick. Our fourth bass lick is our pentatonic runs and our pentatonic shapes. So what that is we're going to start messing around with the pentatonic. And for our C, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the octave, because we're going to play all of these pentatonics backwards, but we can play them forwards as well. So what I'm going to do is play them all descending. So we're going to start from the 5th fret on the G string, that's our C, and we're going to go 5 to 2, then we're going to come 1 string up, 5 to 2, and then 1 string again, 5 to 3. So 5, 2, next string, 5, 2, next string, 5, 3. That's going to be our C major pentatonic shape. And just so it all fits in nicely, I'm just going to play it like this. So you hit C, the main note, and then like that. So that was our C major pentatonic shape. You can play it in different rhythms, you can make certain notes shorter and longer and mess around with it a little, put the notes in different order, but just so it sounds the same over the backing track all the way through, I'm going to play just that little pattern there, so I am not playing anything else, just in case you're wondering why I'm not changing anything. It is still an essential bass lick though that you can change and tweak, and it sounds epic, so that's good. Let's move on to the next chord then. Our next chord was the A on the 5th fret of the E string. Our pentatonic shape is going to be 7 on the D string, because we're playing it descending, remember? So 7 to 5 on the same string, and that's on the D string, 7 to 5. Then we're coming 1 string towards ourselves, 7 to 5. Then another string towards ourselves, 8 to 5. So it goes 7, 5, next string, 7, 5, next string, 8, 5. And that is an A minor pentatonic shape. These shapes basically are the same every single time you play a different note. So the C major pentatonic will be the same shape even if you started on a different note. It's just not the C major pentatonic. So the major pentatonic is that shape that we're talking about just. And then the minor pentatonic is always this shape. It doesn't matter what note you start from, it's just obviously you have to say it. So an A minor pentatonic starts from A, a D minor pentatonic, which is the one we're going to look at in a second, starts on D, but has the same shape on the bass, which is why it's another bass lick that is really useful to know. So I'll do the A minor pentatonic one more time. 7 to 5, 7 to 5, 8 to 5. And I'm going to play it in the same rhythm that I did before, so. So that was our A minor pentatonic shape. We're going to now move on to the D minor pentatonic shape, which is basically just starting from the D, which is our 5th fret of the A string, and then obviously the same shape, so it goes 7 to 5, but on the G string, 7 to 5, 1 string closer, and then next string, 8, 5. So it's the same shape, but just on different strings. 7, 5 on the G, 7, 5 on the D, 8, 5 on the A. And I'm going to play it with the same pattern with the backing track very shortly. So all of these are just superimposable. So we've got one more, which is the G major pentatonic. So our G was on the 3rd fret of the E string, and we're going to play the same shape that we did with our C major pentatonic, but we're starting on different strings. So the 5th fret on the D string is what we're going to start with, and it goes down to the 2. So that's 5 and 2 on the D string. Then it's 5 and 2 on the A string. So 5, 2 on the D, 5, 2 on the A string, and then 5, 3 on the E string. So that shape. So I'll play it for you now in the rhythm that we're going to hear it in the track. So that is going to be all of our pentatonics, and I'm just going to wedge them all together so you can hear it. So this is C, A, D, G. All of those are probably going to be a little bit overkill if you just did them all back to back to back, but I'm going to prove that it does work. And then if you were playing a song and you wanted to steal this bass lick and put it in your playing, you could play it every so often, every couple of chords. So it's definitely a lick that you can take, which is good. And our final one, which is very, very, very cool, our last one is chromatic notes leading into the next chord. This is used a lot in Motown, it's used a lot in soul, used a lot in jazz. It sounds epic regardless. So it's going to be this. We're going to start from C, and then when we're going to play the A, we're actually going to start 2 frets down, so 3, 4, 5, and it's going to sound like this. So C, 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 and then the chromatic. Da da da. And we're going to do that for every single chord. So the reason why I started on the 3 is because the 5 is the note that we want. So I started 2 notes early, so from 5, 1, 2 to 3. So we went 3, 4, and then we hit the 5 when we need it, which is our A minor chord, which is our second chord. Then what we're going to do is do the same thing but to the D. So when we're playing the D chord, we're going to go 3, 4, 5, land on the D, like that. So it goes A to the D, da da da. And then what we're going to do is when we play the G, which is the 3rd fret on the E string, we're going to go 2 frets down and do 1, 2, 3. Do do do. So D, and then run, and then back to the C. So when we play the C the second time, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Da da da. 1, 2, 3. Because C is the 3 that we need. So do do do. So all of these can be used in any context, in any style of music, hence why they're 5 essential bass licks. Might just need a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of rubbing to kind of fit depending on what the drummer is playing. So remember that, because obviously bass licks are meant to be tampered with slightly, but these are really useful. So I'm going to play all of them to the backing track 4 times. So that is 4 times with the octaves, 4 times with our fifths, 4 times with our arpeggios, 4 times with our pentatonics, and then 4 times with our chromatic runs. And then obviously you can hear they all work, they sound really cool, and then you can pick and choose when you use them, because you definitely don't want to use them too much. So let me put the track on, talk amongst yourselves, and I'll be back shortly. So that was each one done 4 times. So we started off with our octaves, then we went on to our fifths, our arpeggios, our pentatonic runs, and then finally our chromatics. So each one of those is really essential, and you can tweak them to match the drummer, but they are absolutely vital, and you can obviously make your own up by just taking those ideas, messing around with it. So if you liked the video, hit subscribe to follow us on YouTube for more content, and check out our Patreon page for exclusive content, very, very exclusive on Patreon. And obviously we'll see you again next time.